This is a message from an OG lesbian. The acronym LGBTQ+ is not a representation of a united community, but the strategic forced teaming of the LGB with the TQ+ that serves a dark agenda to rebrand sexual fetishes and disorders as sexual orientations. For what was once a legitimate civil rights movement, gay rights, has been hijacked, quite literally, by the TQ+ and used as a Trojan horse to mainstream their degeneracy. First, we have the untouchable Ts, the trans cult, who want to sterilise children with puberty blockers, turn all homosexuals into surgical simulations of straight people, and destroy women's rights to enable men's fetishes. Then we have the Qs, young men feminised by sissy porn, furries and pups who fetishise bestiality, and even adult babies who fetishise infancy are all accepted and protected by the rainbow umbrella that magically transforms all scrutiny into bigotry. But the thing that requires the most scrutiny is the unspecified plus at the end, a placeholder for what's coming next. MAPS, or minor attracted people, a euphemism.
What I've always said about this, the LGBTQ community, the LGB needs to speak up. Everybody knows about lesbian, gays, and bisexuals. We know about it. If that's your choice, that's your choice. You have to talk to God about that, but you are still a human being. But I always feel like their community has been hijacked by the trans, the queers, the pluses, and all the extra stuff. I feel like the only way you can stop the trans community from really dominating and pushing this agenda is the LGB needs to be separated from the TQ and the plus. Why do I say that? The trans and the Qs and the pluses and all that, they need the money from the LGB. What the LGBs did was they got their rights and they became a civil rights movement, right? But the trans and the queers and the pluses didn't go through all of that. So they had to jump on the bandwagon with the lesbian, gays, and bisexuals so they can get the money. So now the trans can say, no, this is just not something out of the blue. This is a civil rights issue. And I believe, and I talk to people that are lesbian and gay and bi, they do not like the trans community because it's kind of messing everything up for them because they're associated with it. Only reason why they are tacked onto their community is because of the money and the civil rights. This is the reason why they're able to move through so quickly. It's because what they're saying, it's a civil rights issue. I don't like that, okay? Lesbian, gays, and bis, I know I have family members that are part of that community. I love them to death. That's your opinion. Whatever that means when you talk to God, that's between you and God. But I don't like the trans community. I don't like what it represents. I feel like it's trying to take over the world and really trying to take over the United States. It's trying to make men more feminine. It's trying to make women more masculine. It's messing up the balance of the world that we have today. I tell people this all the time when I'm talking, especially when I talk to my wife about this issue. The trans community needs to be separated. The reason why they need to be separated is because if they're separated, then they won't be able to get funding to continue to push this dark agenda. They are trying to make Americans weak. They're trying to make Americans the minority, and you have other groups that's pushing this so they can come in and take over. But the trans community will not be able to get the support on their own. This is the reason why when we're saying, hey, you can have your own restrooms, you can have your own sports, they're saying no because they know they won't have the money to fund these things to keep their movement going. They need the lesbian, gays, and bisexuals. Look at the situations that we have here. We have this woman, she's talking about it. We have the Tish Hyman incident that happened at the Gold's Gym, right? What I love about this, and the only way that the trans community can go away is if the lesbian, gays, and bisexuals and women come together and attack that. That's the only way. The transgender movement needs money. Let's not look at this as a social issue or a right or wrong issue. Let's look at this as an economic issue. Do you think that the trans movement would have this push in the community if they didn't have the lesbian guys, gays, and bisexuals? No, because nobody's going to fund that. Tell me a famous trans right now, like really, like super famous. I don't know any, But we know there's plenty of lesbian, gays, and bisexuals, and this is the reason why they're able to get funding. This is the reason why they're able to push things through for themselves. That's how they got gay marriage. It's because they have a strong base. The transsexuals, the trans, and all that, all the extra stuff, they don't have a base. So they need their base to be able to feel legitimate, but also to get that money. But let's talk about this next issue that we all need to know about, because this is the next thing that they're trying to push. It's called MAPS, which is called Minor Attracted Persons. But let's talk about this in this clip here.
That is already being used to describe pedophiles who are waiting in the wings for their time to shine. Because the LGBTQ plus sexual psyop is not about promoting tolerance of diversity. It's about grooming society to accept depravity. And as an L, I renounce all association with it and the LGBs who are accessories to the fact. And I urge you to do the same and join the movement for LGB without the TQ plus, because we need to divorce people and we need it stat.
You know, MAPS, Minors Attracted Persons. If you have any kids, you should be worrying about this. Basically, they're trying to make pedophiles legal. They're trying to make it right. They're trying to make it not icky, not wrong. Okay? Pedophiles, people that like to watch child pornography, people that like to be coaches and groom kids from when they're young, certain religions that like to have sex with younger kids to have babies. That's what MAPS is. I think that's why when we see the LGBTQ plus, the plus is for every other thing that is not going to be correct and doesn't make sense to any of us. So as a people, we have to wake up and understand that's the next thing. This is what my solution is to all of this stuff, especially to the transgender movement. I feel like this, the transgender, if you want to be transgender, that is your prerogative. I'm not saying you can't be transgender. I'm not saying you can't be this, but transgender to me is not a man that has, puts shirts in a bra, wears a skirt, and puts a wig on and say he's a woman. That's not a trans woman to me. A trans woman to me, what do we say what trans means? It means transforming. It means going through the whole surgery. Meaning, if you are a man, you got the boobs, you got the hormones, and you got your thing cut off, you got the full surgery. Now that is considered trans, okay? I don't like the fact that a man can put on a wig and walk into a female's restroom. That's not trans to me. Trans is somebody that actually went and paid the money to be able to become a woman. That's how you stop trans. You make it economic and you make it a money thing and say, hey, you could be trans if you want to go into the women's restroom, but we need you to have the full surgery. You cannot go to the restroom with a penis. That doesn't make sense. You need to have the full surgery. You need to have proof and you need to pay for that. Money is what keeps people from doing stupid things. So now if you tell the person, well, if you don't have the surgery, if you don't have proof of that, if you don't have the documentation and you have the articles and whatever on your license it says T instead of M and F, or F, whatever, then you can't do this. What it is, we have a lot of perverts that are men that want to see women, and they're saying what they do is they put on a wig and go into a woman's restroom. That is taking away the privacy and the safety of women. Yes, are there transgender women out there? Yes, we see them a lot in Bangkok. Thailand, correct? Overseas. You can't even tell if they are a female or a male. You have to ask them because they did the surgery. They did it the right way, correct? Now we have people here, we know damn well you are a man. You have not tried to do any surgery. You just put on a wig and you put on a skirt and you're walking into a woman's restroom. That's not right. I believe if we put on I believe what we need in America, we need an actual definition of a transgender. So we know what a male and a female is, but we need a definition and we need the requirements for you to be eligible to be a transgender. We cannot just say you put on a wig and you're walking into a restroom, that's a transgender. I think the definition is too loose. We have to make it more strict and more defined, and we have to put an economic value on it. Meaning, If you want to be a transgender woman, you have to get all of the surgeries done. Until then, you cannot go into the woman's restroom. This is how you make money, because we know those surgeries aren't cheap and they aren't easy to do. Okay? I believe that's, if we want to accept this, if people want to bring this in, if the lawmakers are really pushing for transgenders, I believe we need to have a definition. We need to have a definition, and we need to have it to where you have to get all of the surgeries. There's no way you should have a penis and walking into the woman's restroom. You know what I'm saying? So let me know your thoughts about this. But I just know that the LGBT community is very upset. They're being taken advantage of. For how long they work for their rights, the transgenders are just using their rights to push their agenda as well. And is what it is making men feminine and making women masculine. It doesn't match. It doesn't make sense, right? So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. Once you are part and subscribe, make sure you turn on your notifications so you can get all the videos. We got plenty of things coming to this channel, but I appreciate your support, and we'll keep it rocking.